Hey, what's up, Black Knight Nation? It's Sal Interdonado. We're here with a live post-game reaction to Army's big 43-10 win over Georgia State on the road. The Black Knight Nation podcast is sponsored by Higher Echelon, and I'm here with Ask for Football's Jordan Horvath to review the game. Jordan was in attendance for the Army's win. So, Jordan, thanks for hopping on. We really appreciate it. And, man, what a start to the season for the Black Knights, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Sal. What a great start. Coming into this game, we're 3-point underdogs. ESPN had us at like a 35% chance to win, and then we come through and 43-10. Like, what more can you say? Really should have been 45-10, but we can talk about our special teams issues later.
Yeah, I mean, it starts off right from the bat, the defense, just on the post-game conference call, and Andre Carter was on. And wow, what a game. We'll talk about his game later, but what a four plays into the game, and the defense makes it basically, to me, a little bit of obviously a momentum shifting play, but it was also a game changer too with that fumble. Eric Smith comes out of the pile with the ball, and then I think I was just talking to Tyson Riley about this. Army's first 3 touchdowns came on 3rd and goal. So this offense was determined to put the ball in the end zone early and get up on Georgia State. And, I mean, just a great response early from the Black Knights from what you saw, I'm guessing.
Yeah, 100%. And one thing we've seen is that, as teams study the option more and more, because we play them more frequently, we played Georgia State 2 years ago, they get better at making those halftime adjustments. And coming into this game, we didn't know who was going to start at quarterback. They didn't know who was going to start at quarterback. Literally just Jeff Monken and probably Brent Davis knew. So we definitely had the element of surprise in the first half, and I'm glad that we were able to put up as many points as we did. We put up 27 points at the half. So that was the time to do it, and I'm glad we were able to take advantage of an energetic first half and the element of surprise with the quarterbacks.
We want to get a lot into the game, but I was messaging back and forth with somebody that was in attendance, and they told me they thought there were as many Army fans as there were Georgia State Georgia State fans at the game. What was your sense of that, of the crowd there today?
100%. Walking around inside the gates of the stadium, there were quite a few Georgia State tailgates, but out in the parking lot, it was all Army. And then their fans were much more spread out, but just based on numbers and the number of people I saw walking around, we definitely had the advantage. Saw one Navy fan. Didn't speak to him, but your Georgia State was not well represented. I think they have a 25,000 person capacity, and maybe 5,000 people were there, and over half of those were probably Army.
Yeah, and you talked about at the beginning of the podcast, Army comes in as an underdog in this game, and some people are saying why. It's a 9-win Army team. It's a team with returning starters. I put a number out there, maybe 38 guys who started a game last year that are back. Defense was number 1 ranked in the nation last year in yards allowed. And, I think this, I don't know, to me, a statement game, maybe, because, I think they were a little underrated, underappreciated. I don't know if that probably doesn't go too much into players' heads, but I know that the seniors on this team, after losing to Georgia State 2 years ago and the way it went down, they were determined to win tonight.
Absolutely. And Army always plays better when they're an underdog, according to Vegas. Going into this game, I was a little nervous because of the line, because of the talent Georgia State had, and also for whatever reason, Army tends to struggle early in the season. You remember the Duke game from a couple of years ago that went disastrously, and we play good football, but we make small errors. We put the ball on the ground. We didn't fumble it once. This entire game we didn't throw an interception, so that's fantastic, and that really, I think, speaks to some of the maturity and the discipline of this team. Obviously, we had 4 muffed punts, so we need to kind of get that fixed. But overall, yeah, absolutely a statement win. Great way to start the season, and really kind of puts things into perspective of maybe Wisconsin isn't, that far-fetched. So I'm not saying we're going to beat Wisconsin, but, Vegas probably has this as a 30-point underdog. Maybe they need to adjust that line a little bit.
Yeah, I saw somebody tweet out once. I retweeted Josh Conklin's tweet about why was Army an underdog in this game. That I think the halftime line went up to 20 points in favor of Army. Of course, after they're open by they have a 20-point lead. Vegas is spot on there. You look at like the offense, and you talked about rotating quarterbacks, and Tyler only played 2 drives, the opening 2 drives of this game, and then apparently had like maybe an ankle sprain or something to that effect. That Coach Munkin said that it looks like he'll be okay. And then Christian Anderson off the bench, right? And man, didn't miss a beat. That first snap that he took, it looked like one of the Georgia State defensive linemen kind of crashed the mesh a little bit, and the ball was exchanged a couple times. Army kept it, but after that, it was pretty much smooth sailing with Christian.
Yeah, and on their Ask for Football podcast, we've had some former offensive linemen come in and talk about what a difference it makes when you switch out a quarterback. And, to you and me, it's like, it's a different quarterback, but, whatever. But, like, just where they put their hands before they receive the ball. So that's not totally unexpected. And just the mesh point of the receiver. Christian Anderson did a great job. He's not, in my opinion, as aggressive as Tyler, but he does a great job managing the offense well, makes great reads. And he's great in space. As soon as he gets through that 5 yards and, he sees green, he can run. So I think he had a couple opportunities to do that. Overall, really happy with the way he performed. Hope Tyler's good. And we also got to see Jabari Laws and we saw another couple quarterbacks.
Jamel Jones.
Yes, Jamel Jones.
Jamel Jones, yeah. Army had 2 passing touchdowns today. I mean, both the slot backs. And Jordan, I was calling for that. I wrote a story on today for today on the website saying, you know what, we're going to see fullback dive first play. We pretty much can bet Vegas on that, just to see what the Georgia State's defense looks like. But man, wouldn't it be nice to have maybe a pitch play to Terrell Robinson, or even a pass to Terrell Robinson, just to keep the defense honest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there he goes, and it beats a defensive back wide open. Christian Anderson, perfect pass in there for 40-yard pass. And then Jamel Jones, I mean, that pass to Brahim Murphy late in the game. Georgia State's getting up on the run, play action, and there's Brahim Murphy all alone. But man, if this offense can get those slots involved for some big time plays like that, they're going to be really can I don't know, can anybody stop them? It may not be the question, but they're going to be tough to stop.
Absolutely. We have so much speed at that position. And I know that's something that the coaches have been recruiting for and practicing for and training for. And so it's good to actually finally see that come to fruition with multiple quarterbacks who can pass the ball. I think a couple times they wanted to throw the ball maybe and they weren't able to because no one was open. But when we did throw the ball, it was just effective and it looked good and it didn't look forced. And last season, I don't know if you remember, but they had the quarterbacks going back and doing some like shoulder lean drop thing and then going to throw. They stopped doing that, and whatever play action they were doing actually worked, and it worked really well, as we saw almost 100 yards passing this game.
Yeah, and Tyler completed a pass too, and that looked real comfortable to Sean Eckert right away, and that really got the I don't know if it loosened up the defense, but it puts in their mind, hey, Tyler's not just going to be a running quarterback. He's going to air it out. He talked about how much he worked on his passing in the spring and in the offseason, and that pass looked good. And, Jeff Munkin, somebody in press conference asked Munkin about, are we going to go to an air style offense now with Army? And no, they're not. Of course they're not. Of course they're not. But just to 6 passes a game, complete six passes a game or whatever they had today, it shows progress. It shows progress. It shows that they're not going to be, to me, at times, I think that where they're just so they have their ways and they're going to stick to their offense and they're going to run fullback. And now it shows, hey, look at that 4th down goal line play with Christian Anderson out of the shotgun, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a Q back. It's maybe a delayed Q back draw right up the middle, knowing that knocks the socks off of his defender, and Christian Anderson can almost walk into the end zone. It's a little creativity there on 4th down. It's not just lining up and tossing the fullback up the middle.
Exactly. And that's good to see. And it's good to see that we're in a position with our offensive line where we can do that. Because in years previous, offensive line maybe didn't get that push. They were letting people through. And so the only option they had was a quick little, fullback dive up the A gap just to get the ball off so we didn't get negative yardage. And now that the offensive line has really matured and they're healthy and they're able to get that 1-yard push and keep people out of the backfield, we have opportunities to actually let plays develop. And if we want Christian Anderson to do the draw, great. I think that was a design draw, that play. But, he had options in that play if he wanted to pitch it, or, he took it himself, or he probably could have handed it off, could have given it to the fullback if he wanted to. But either way, I think that the maturity of the quarterbacks and now the experience of the offensive line is really going to benefit us later in the season.
I guess we talked a little bit about the defense's effort today, but I mean, you look at, they give up 10 points and they force 2 turnovers, and that Jabari Moore interception at the end of the first half. I don't know what Georgia State's doing there, but when you have the ball deep down your territory with under 2 minutes left, I guess they were looking for points or moving the ball quick. And man, Jabari Moore has always been a guy kind of on the spot, ready. It looked like he jumped it to pass a little bit, and it sets Army right up for that Anderson touchdown. That's huge. That gives you a 20-point lead at halftime.
Yeah, and that actually happened in the end zone I was sitting in. And their quarterback went back. As soon as he pivoted and looked to his right, I saw Moore just cut it. He read it perfectly, jumped the route. It was textbook. So, but to your point, just having that solid defense that allows us to go up 27-7 at halftime is fantastic. And the defense keeps us in the game long enough for the offense to continue to grind people down, work out any, kinks and errors that there may or may not be with the option. Defense played fantastic. I mean, they only had the ball for 18 minutes. Like, you can't win a football game unless you're Oklahoma if you have the ball for 18 minutes. So I think that speaks to offensive efficiency, but also the defense, just 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. And it wasn't even a bend, don't break. They didn't even bend most of the time. So that was good to see.
It seemed like they were able to get some pressure on the quarterback. And did they get to him in sacks? No, right away. But I mean, they made him hurry some throws. And I think Georgia State was playing without their lead receiver, Sam Pinckney. They were playing without their lead receiver, Sam Pinckney, too. So that probably affected their play calling a little bit. But man, Andre Carter with a huge game, 3 sacks, and talking to Jeff Munkin after the game, I was like, what kind of matchup problems did he present today? And he's like, today, it might be all season with Andre Carter. You 6'7", 265 coming off the edge there with some speed.
Yeah.
Who's blocking that guy?
Yeah. I mean, we were in the backfield almost every play. And if we didn't sack him, we were, a second or two away from it. So, and, defensive line, fantastic. They're aggressive. I want to talk about our cornerbacks because traditionally the Achilles heel of our defense has been the cornerbacks. They played lights out today against a team that only wants to pass. And it was just incredible. Very happy with the way the cornerbacks played. Didn't get beat deep, did not get burned, read the routes correctly. We're good in pursuit, good in coverage, everything. So I don't know who that position coach is, but he has done a fantastic job with that group.
I'm pretty sure it's Darryl Dixon is the corners coach.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know what? Toward the end of the game, right, you're seeing the depth of Army at cornerback when Isaiah Morris goes into the game. He does a great job on a deep ball and coverage, and he knocks the ball away in the end zone too.
Yeah,
and that's a guy who's he's behind like a Jabari Moore and a Julian McDuffie, and Cam Jones got some playing time today. They're about 5 or 6 deep at corner, and I think any of those guys are showing that they're ready to go. And you look at. We talked a little bit about this, but you tell us a little bit about the game. It was 82 degrees, 83 degrees, right? And then on the field, it's hotter. Army guys, there's a lot of rotation in with players because some guys are going off with cramps and stuff. And so the next guy up mentality, and they're not really missing too much of a beat with that.
No, I mean, you couldn't tell when people were coming in and out. I mean, traditionally, 5 years ago, if you will, you could tell a difference between the first string and the second string. Now it's almost indiscernible. And to your point, it was 82, 83 degrees, but it's hot on the turf, and the little black rubber pellets just get so hot, and you're standing on it. So saw a lot of guys go down with cramps. It was just hot in the stadium. We were down in section 101, and it was so hot, I had to kind of come up a little bit up into the 200s and had the overhang. So was watching the sun, slowly creep up towards our seat as the day went on. But thankfully, we were in the shade most of the time. But players did not have that luxury.
As a West Point grad, it's got to be like to go to see Army on the road and see them win and hear the alma mater be playing, and then to hear the beat Navy at the end, right? I mean, I don't know if there's anything. I don't think anything better fan experience than that.
No, it's cool. And I graduated in 2018, and I have not seen pretty much any of my classmates since then. I didn't go to the Army Navy in 2018. I went in 2019. Then obviously last year nothing happened. So it was good to see so many of my classmates show up. So many, class of 20, class of 21 graduates there. It was really cool. It felt like a family reunion. My brother is a plebe on the football team, so my mom's in some group chat, and all the other freshman football moms all got together. So we tailgated beforehand. That's fun. It really did feel like a home game. Their announcer was obnoxious. He just every time they would get a hit, he'd go, "Oh, boo!" We're down 30 points, and he's hooting and hollering and screaming about third down, and all their fans have left by this point, and they got that horn. But I mean, other than that, it really did feel like a home game, and winning was fantastic, and then singing the alma mater was great.
Luckily, there weren't too many times to use that horn today, So.
No, yeah. Well, every third down they tried to do it, but other than that, they really didn't have an opportunity. So,
what was a pregame tailgate like with Army football moms?
I don't want to call them wild, but they love their children. They know what's going on, and they are very in tune to what's happening. And they were fired up about football, and saw some little things of vodka and some purses and some little solo cups floating around. This was 9 a.m. So they were getting after it. Apparently they've been out since like 7 or 7:30. So Army always has a good showing, and we always win the tailgate.
Yeah, and it gives a little practice for next week's home opener against Western Kentucky.
Exactly.
Yeah, Western Kentucky. They had a FCS transfer throw for 7 touchdowns against Tennessee Martin earlier this week. So but as an Army fan, you don't really sweat that too much because we talked about the secondary, right? We talked about how deep the secondary is, and we talked about the pressure that they were able to get on the quarterback today. And Andre Carter just said, "Hey, Coach Woody and the defensive coaches set us up with some good schemes, and things all came together." Inside linebacker Brian Burton's a freshman, right? He's making he's playing his first college game. Spencer Jones is a little banged up. Spencer Jones played later on. Brian Burton, first play of the game, is right there assisting or making a tackle on the first play.
Yeah.
Playing his assignment. So, I mean, he did play at the prep school last year, but that shows you that these coaches have got even, a guy who's, that adrenaline on your first college game has got to be absolutely out of the park. And he's able to, just focus and make his plays. And I don't know. The only thing, I mean, you had I usually do a good, bad, and ugly, right? I mean, bad and ugly has to be special teams, right? I've never seen what happened earlier in the game in watching college football all my life, where you had 2 punts that were muffed by Army, 2 punts that were recovered by Georgia State, but yet taken back because of holding penalties.
Yeah, and we got bailed out. Their lack of discipline really saved us on that, because that momentum shift, you mentioned we were up, I think 7-0 by that point, and that momentum could have easily shifted the other way had that not happened. So glad we got lucky, glad they were so undisciplined, but yeah, I mean, it's a big red flag in my mind for special teams. And then, we did it later in the game too, and it reached the point where we didn't even have anybody back returning punts by the end of the game because coach didn't trust them. And I think that was the right call.
Yeah, no, honestly, just being around the team and covering the team for as long as I have, I know how much Jeff Monken cares about special teams play. Mm-hmm. That's a big thing for him. They work on it, I think, a 15-minute period at the beginning of every practice. I thought that he said during their last scrimmage, they practiced almost every possible special team scenario, the last scrimmage that they could. So when he saw that, I mean, his radio interview at halftime, asking him about going for it instead of kicking the field goal at the end of the first half, he was saying, well, what are we going to do? Kick a field goal? We missed. Maybe that would have got blocked. That would have got blocked. Now, I was kind of in between things during the game. They tried a fake extra point running the kicker.
Yeah, we did. The holder got it, went down to put it on the ground for the kicker, and then just kind of popped it up with his other hand. So it was innovative. It was interesting, but I think Georgia State caught on pretty quickly. And it's so hard to get those 2-point conversions out of that because, the kicker's 7 yards back from the line, and so he's on the 10+ yard line. If he's, it's not really feasible, but I understand why they tried to do it. It was cool to see. I think it was the right call, try to, get that momentum back. But at the other day, it really didn't matter. 43-10. We
Yeah.
we hit the over and we covered the spread. So
I would have loved to seen kicker Cole Talley get into the end zone, but that would have been something.
That would have been really cool. I think his parents were there, so that would have been really cool for them.
Yeah, because I talked to Cole earlier this week, and he talked about maybe putting some work in the weight room, and also just getting focused. He hasn't kicked for Army since 2019, wow. And I mean, he didn't play last year. He did not play last year, and he won the job in the preseason. And you look at like his kickoffs. I don't know if he didn't have a touchback, when he kicked off, and the extra point that was blocked, but I mean, had a chip shot field goal that's gonna just. Hey, when you haven't kicked in a while in a game, get that one in the first game, especially when it's a route, right? And get that under your belt and see what happens. You never know what's going to happen next week against Western Kentucky. So, I mean, man, good, bad, and ugly. I think special teams we kind of covered, right? Is there anything else you saw out there today, really, that was?
That was it. Georgia State kept trying to start fights, and we're just doing the kind of the pushing, and near the end of the game, I think there's a minute left in the game. We're up by 33 points, and they took loss to the ground. 4 guys kind of stood over him and wouldn't let him get up. And that's just ugly football, in my opinion. And I'm not impressed by that. But I mean, hey, it's Georgia State, right? They're in downtown Atlanta. What do you expect? So.
Yeah, and just for Jabari Laws to get another guy who hadn't played in a snap since November of 2019. Jordan, that guy. I've spoken to Jabari early in his career. He's one of the nicest kids you'll ever meet, and to be what he had gone through, I guess he had like maybe a torn ACL, maybe late in the 2019 season. Then he re-injured that knee in preseason last year, and just to get him back into the game. And Coach Munkin talked about how much the team loves him and how they were mauling him after the game, like just. That technically right now is your 4th string quarterback, right?
Yeah.
And that's a guy who is just like, I remember going to a spring practice, and I had my daughter tag along with me, and I was talking to him and Tyler after the practice. This is, I believe, their sophomore going into the junior year. The offense won the 4th quarter Warriors and got candy bars. And both of them gave my daughter the candy bars to take home on the road. I mean,
that's awesome.
Yeah, Jabari Laws is just a great guy, and the work that he put in to get back, and man, Georgia State, that's just total disrespect to a guy that's worked his tail off, like you said, and deserves everything he gets. And I know he's in line, I believe, for the Warfield Trophy. He's a candidate for that. Just great to see. I mean, when you can run in, I mean, who didn't play this game, right? I mean, who didn't play this game? I was going to ask Coach Munkin about that. A lot of guys get their maybe first game experience or get back on the field and get some reps in. It's only going to help down the line. And looking ahead at the schedule, I mean, it's looking, they can have a nice little run here at the beginning of the year.
Absolutely. And that's what we need. We have, I kind of did the math there. We beat Georgia State, which is great. We have that FCS team, which, is it Bucknell this year?
I think so.
That should be easy, Connecticut and UMass, easy wins. Western Kentucky, we should win. Miami, Ohio, we should win. Ball State, we should win. And we got, Wisconsin, Wake Forest. Those are going to be tough. Air Force is going to be tough just because their whole team is back from their little sabbatical or summer camp or whatever the heck you want to call it. Bucknell's easy. And then we got Liberty and Navy. And while, Navy, we're not expecting to be great this season, Liberty was a good football team last year, and they're probably going to be a good football team this year. So as much momentum as we can get going into Wake Forest, Wisconsin, Wake Forest, Air Force, I think is really going to help us. And then we have Bucknell and UMass to kind of regroup before Liberty and Navy. But if we can rack up, 3-4 wins, 5 wins before Wisconsin, we're feeling pretty good, going into that stretch.
I was very close to tweeting today that Army should be a ranked team after this victory. Now, I know that's just probably my opinion. Back in the day, I did have a vote in the AP poll, believe it or not, back in the day.
Wow, nice.
That was a long, long time ago. But I just feel like this is definitely a win that should put them – I don't know why they're not at least considered. Do I expect them to be in the top 25 preseason? I don't know. But, I mean, this is a good win. And if they can get on a roll and win those first 4 games, I see no reason why they're not a ranked team going into Wisconsin.
No, and – if you've listened to the Ask for Football show, that I have a bone to pick with the AP poll. because it's a bunch of people who don't actually watch football but know it is the largest fan base. So they all just copy each other's ballots based off of who gets the most coverage on ESPN, and all ESPN cares about is ad revenue and clicks. So realistically, top 10, top 25, it's okay. Who are the most popular schools right now? Who's buying the most UNC swag or whatever? So it's annoying. I don't know if Army's a top 25 team, but are we 74 or whatever somebody had us at?
Wow.
No. I think we could make a strong case for being top 50, maybe even top 30. If play today is indicative of how good this team is, it'll be interesting to see what bowl game we go to.
Yeah, I think so. And you look at like the question marks, I guess, might have been on the offensive line where some guys graduated, but you had guys who started before. And you look at, like we talked about, they were knocking some bodies around today, and just it was a physical play. And I think that the interior of the line was really. I was talking to somebody earlier this week, and they said that just watch. I think it was Rob Healy on our podcast, and he was just talking about I watch most of the time. I watch that interior, the two guards in the center, and if they're moving the ball, then I know we're going to have success with the running game. And man, Noah Knapp and Dean Powell did a great job today. So did Connor Bishop, the center. And I don't know. I mean, they were able to rotate guys in. And can you see that live and see how they were knocking around guys today? Or
offensive line was very physical. I know. 2 years ago, they really struggled with a lot of injuries. Last year, a little bit more the same. And while it's not good that people got injured, it is good that we got game experience, because even though those guys weren't starters, they were still able to play in a lot of games, get a lot of experience. And they were physical. They were moving people off the ball, downfield throwing blocks. It was the type of offensive line that makes an Army fan happy to see, for sure.
Yeah, and you have 6 different players score touchdowns today. Tyson Riley, first start, sophomore fullback. People are like, what's going on with the fullback situation? Jacoby Buchanan's not on the depth chart. I mean, there's panic mode with our Black Knight Nation Army football fans. And look at Jacoby Buchanan. He was in there. He was moving the pile. He scored a touchdown. They kind of shared it a little bit. Tyson Riley scored the first touchdown. Anthony Atkins got involved. It was nice to see Wilson Cato get in the game late, a senior who's paid his dues and maybe might have not played on defense because he's behind some really good linebackers, and he got a chance to play late in the game. Cade Bernard also. And I think there's more coming in the fullback room. So, I mean, and that we know how important that position is. And I think that, we saw the depth of quarterback today for Army. We saw the depth at fullback. And maybe across the board. And Coach Munkin says he's a little concerned about the depth. Maybe he doesn't have like 6 more guys who could be starters, like just laying around somewhere. But I mean, there's a lot of good players.
Yeah, it really is. And unlike Navy, our entire offense and defense don't, hinge on one person. We have depth at positions. We have solid leaders at all the positions. And it's good. It's refreshing. And as an Army fan, it's almost scary because you have to kind of learn how to trust again. It's after you had your heart broken, you're going out and you're dating again. You got, learn to be emotionally vulnerable. And that's how it feels to be an Army fan a lot of the times, because we got burned so many times in the past. And now we are in truly a different age of Army football. And we need to trust coach. And while everyone has their opinion on who should start at quarterback, we just got to trust that they've done the research. They know their analytics. They've made the right decision. And if we don't see someone on the depth chart, there's no reason to throw up our hands and, think the world is falling, because we have so much depth at these positions and we have coaches who know what the heck's going on.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of they only went too deep. They only listed 2 quarterbacks. They only listed 2 fullbacks. And in the past, you've seen 4 fullbacks listed at times. You've seen a long list of quarterbacks because of the guys have been banged up, and it's a season opener. No need to panic.
They also only traveled, I think, with 3 deep. So we're looking at this, our sideline versus Georgia State. It was pretty apparent that we had a lot less people on the field. I know they left a lot of people up at West Point. So those depth charts might look a little different next week when we have the whole team.
I forget. I used to ask Coach Munkin about how many he usually travels on the road. I want to say they travel around 70-ish. Between 70 and 75 players, I think. And then, do you bring it? Like, how many quarterbacks are you going to bring? I don't think Cade Ballard was on the trip. I don't think Maurice Ballon was on the trip. Those quarterbacks have gotten a good amount of reps in the preseason. Those guys will dress next week at Western Kentucky.
Sure.
They dress more at home, and we'll see how that game goes. Who knows that? Who knows? They might be asked to play. Ballon was asked to play a couple times late in games last year and performed. And Ballard, we know what he did last year, and I know that a lot of Army football fans think that maybe he should be under center. So
yeah, I'm one of those fans, but we'll save that.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, Jordan, I really appreciate you hopping on after the game. Thanks for taking the time. Why don't you tell the people where they can find you guys?
Of course. Thanks, Sal. And for those of you who have not heard of As for Football, we are an Army football analytics site. We do podcasts, we have Instagram, we have Twitter, put out a lot of content, pregame, postgame analysis, schedule preview, position preview, and just talk about Army football. So if you're interested in Army football, check out asforfootball.com. We are on every place you get your podcasts. We have the As for Football Army Football Show. We have College Football Roundtable, which is more focused on football as a whole. And then you can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at As for Football.
It's a great place to get your college football fix, no doubt. And big fan. And for us, it's blackknightnation.com. You can find us on all like Instagram, Twitter, Black Knight Nation. We also have our YouTube channel where you'll find this podcast. And today, Jordan, our Black Knight Nation shirts came in.
Oh, today. Nice.
So look out. You can find those on our blackknightnation.com websites. It came in like an hour into the game, like around 1 o'clock. It was delivered to my house today. So I had a bet with my daughter that I lost because I was hoping that it would get here before kickoff. But
no,
you can find that merch there. But hey, Jordan, great having you on. Look forward to this down the road, and go Army.
Go Army, beat Navy. Thanks for having me, Sal.